Hello and welcome to Nutrition and Alternative Medicine. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's show. We're going to talk a little bit about Chinese astrology, money, and the new year. And I'm bringing back PK Odle. PK is going to help us understand what is possible in your space. Our spaces all have energy, and when you enhance that energy in a positive way, removing any blocks to the energies, things can flow better into your life. And we definitely want to look at those areas in which we may have blocks in our physical space energetically, because we don't want to block things like money and love and health coming into the new year. Now, before we get started on today's episode, I did want to remind you that, speaking of manifestation, I am doing a beta test for a manifestation mastermind. There are 20 slots, and a little less than half of them are filled. And I'm putting it out there to you guys. It starts in January. A mastermind, for those of you that don't know, it's a term that really was made more popular by Napoleon Hill of Think and Grow Rich. And a mastermind is where like-minded people come together. And actually, it doesn't have to be like-minded people, but let's just, for sake of argument, like-minded people come together to share energies creatively to help each other attain goals. And what happens in that creative space, let's say you get a certain amount of time. Let's say it's 15 minutes and you have 19 other people, or 20 in this case, because I'm, of course, going to be there, 20 other people literally on your wavelength trying to help you solve a problem, come up with an idea, creative solution. So you have this, it's like a magic that happens. And often I liken it to like opening up a channel, opening up a connection to get downloads and to have a higher sense of intuition and non-physical entities that can actually help us hear and get creative ideas. So anyway, a mastermind is a very powerful group. And I'm going to open it up to you, the podcast community, if you would like to join. It's right now, the first come, first serve was in the Manifestation Challenge. There is no limit to what you can focus on. So you can do business, career, and money. You can do love, relationships, and health. But the point is you get accountability. You get like-minded people who are also going to be contributing to helping you find a connection. And then, of course, the community aspect of coming together under sort of the same understanding and genre and goals and spirit, if you will. It's a very powerful thing. I've done it in person over the course of time, and now we're going to take it virtual. And how it's going to be scheduled will be based on who is in the group. There will be 2 Zoom calls, which is a webcam-based call. It's like Skype or FaceTime, but it'll be on the computer. It'll be twice a month, and then there'll be a private Facebook group to support each other every day and throw ideas out there, share resources, things like that. So it's a one-time beta test that I'm going to do for 6 months. You can either do it for $97 a month for 6 months, so once a month for $97, or you can do the full 6 months at $497. And I need to give you the links, so you actually have to email me. I'm going to send out an email to the group. So if you're not on the email list, then there's a couple different ways you can get on the list. You can go download a free something at jjflazanes.com. There's the book, there's a couple quizzes, there's an optimal health checklist, there's a love quiz, there's joining the next manifestation challenge. All of those things get you on the list, and I will send out another email. I don't think it's going to take very long to fill the remaining spaces. So if you want in, you put your money down now. If it's November, which I believe it still is, you just won't pay in December. And I don't believe you pay in January either. So you pay your first month if you're doing the monthly plan, or if you're paying full, you don't have to pay again. So I hope that you'll consider joining the Manifestation Mastermind virtually, and that will help. Today's show, we're talking about staying in the flow in your space with Feng Shui and Chinese astrology. And hopefully that collectively will all create a really great atmosphere from which you can have an amazing 2019. One last thing before I introduce PK again, I had been fostering 5 kittens, 5 bottle-fed kittens that I was feeding every couple hours for 10 days. And so we had recorded this session in between feedings, and of course a couple of them got very hungry. So I apologize in advance. You're going to hear kittens yelling at me to feed them. And we were on such a good roll, and I couldn't really edit it all out. So please forgive me. If you love cats, you won't care. If you don't like cats, just try to block it out. It doesn't happen the whole time. It only happens when I'm talking. I tried to mute it out for the rest of it. So just remember, I was saving kittens' lives, okay? If I hadn't rescued them, they would have been put down and put to sleep. So just try to be patient with that. I apologize. PK Odle is a widely recognized Feng Shui consultant, speaker, author, publisher, and the executive director of the world-renowned American Feng Shui Institute, where she has taught since 1998. Her consulting firm, the Feng Shui Advantage, was founded in 1997 and specializes in working with solopreneurs, from chiropractors to info-preneurs, restaurateurs to retailers, artists to attorneys, interior designers to graphic designers, engineers to architects, from startup to well-established businesses, and everyone in between. Through the years, PK has been featured in national magazines and local newspapers, along with appearing on radio and television programs across the country. PK's primary goal is educating people on the science and benefits of classical feng shui. Therefore, she published her award-winning email newsletter, the Feng Shui Advantage Monthly, in 2004. PK co-authored the best-selling book, Wake Up and Live the Life You Love, Finding Personal Freedom, with Dr. Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, and Mark Victor Hansen of Chicken Soup for the Soul. She also contributed to the book Power and Soul, which reveals the business secrets of 42 successful entrepreneurs for unlocking practically any business or personal challenge you're currently facing. And as a reminder, PK can do feng shui and work with anyone, anywhere, because, of course, the gift of technology. Welcome back to the show, PK.
Thank you, JJ.
So PK was a sponsor at the Next Big Step, and she will be at January's Releasing What Weighs You Down. And one of the things that I really appreciate about PK and the sponsors that come to the events is that you get to talk with them the entire weekend that you're there. And as you're going to hear today, if you haven't already heard PK's first show, we talked about the 7 harmful effects in the bedroom. It was a show that we talked about using feng shui to increase your health, your wealth, your relationships by making sure these 7 things were not in your bedroom, things you don't even know about. And that's, if you don't know about feng shui, PK is going to share all about it, but it really is about the energetic placement of things and how it affects you, affects your energy, your chi, and how it even affects how you attract things. And so I wanted to make sure that we brought PK back again, especially right now at this very pivotal time of the end of this year and the transition into next year, because this is the time where people reevaluate their lives, reevaluate their homes, and what they're doing in their space. And it's an excellent time for you to have a feng shui consultation, or for you to look at what's going on in my house or in my office space, and how do I change that up to enhance what it is that I want to have happen. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Chinese astrology, because I've never done Chinese astrology on the show before. And for those of you that are listening, if I can't edit this out, there's a kitten in the background in case you can hear it. And if you can't hear it, then I'll just edit this whole piece out. So PK, first of all, let's talk about the relationship between Chinese astrology and feng shui.
Thank you for asking. Well, from your date of birth, that's where your 15-degree feng shui directions come from. The 45-degree directions that I talked about on the previous episode number 49 on July 31st of this year are from the I Ching, because feng shui actually is based in the I Ching. It's a sister science to acupuncture. However, there are aspects of feng shui that relate to your Chinese astrology. And that's not just the animal, which is technically the branch of your Chinese astrology, but it's also the stem. So it's referred to as your stem and branch. And when I look at that information according to your date of birth, I can tell you things like what direction, if you put your back that direction, your right brain for creativity will be supported more than your left brain, because that's the opposite direction you would want to sit with your back, to have your left brain triggered and be more analytical for editing what you've written. And then there are directions where you wouldn't want to have thorns or broken things because it would cause relationship issues or bleeding. There are directions where you wouldn't want to have doors or windows or your house oriented that way because it would make you spend all your money. It would drain it away. The Chinese call that your consuming direction. Versus the opposite is your prosperous direction. And that could be one section over from your consuming, or one day before you're consuming, or one day after, or for some people, it's actually the same timing. So it would be the same direction. So maybe you wouldn't want to open that window if you couldn't control your spending and only spend your money to make more money.
Okay. And isn't there also something about the new year and which direction you're facing, right?
Well, from year to year, there are directions where you wouldn't want to have thorns or broken things to avoid marital problems. That means problems with your intimate relationships, or injuries like bleeding from, could be as you have to have surgery, or it could be other sorts of injuries from metal that cause bleeding. And those two directions for 2019 are the southeast and the southwest. So that would be the 45-degree magnetic portions of southeast and southwest. So outside or inside, if someone sends you roses, just simply snap off the thorns. But if you like to have cactuses with thorns in your house, you wouldn't want that in that portion, inside or outside of your abode or your place of work. If it could even be thorny things like barbed wire on a security fence. So if you have that, then you would want to put a fountain, a large fountain outside between your structure and those thorns, whether it be barbed wire, bougainvilleas, roses, cactuses with thorns, anything like that, to avoid the bleeding or the relationship issues.
I know, PK, that you have worked with a lot of mutual friends of ours, and you've been doing this for a very long time. And I wonder if, because I want to give people a sense of the power of Feng Shui, because it's very complicated and intricate. And when PK was presenting at the Next Big Step, there were all these charts and graphs and all this information. And as you can tell, she's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this. She's a master, actually. And at the end of the day, because my head was spinning, everyone just said, just hire PK. Why would you want to even try to learn this? Just because. But I want to talk about some of the testimonials that you've had with people because of things they don't even understand. And that's where I want to make the jump of when you're coming into someone's space or you're doing it remotely with somebody, like some of these little tweaks, it can make such a big difference. Can you give some examples?
Well, one of them is your consuming direction. So, for instance, a dear friend of ours that was also a speaker at your last event, her kitchen window, anytime anybody in her family opens that kitchen window, it makes her spend more money. So the house rule now is open the other windows down in the breakfast nook end of her kitchen, or in the back room at the back door has a window in it, and just keep that window over the sink closed so it keeps down her expenses. But I also tell her prosperous. There's a window that when she opens it, it brings more money. But also I tell her what days to send out her announcements, or when to make specific sales calls or sales videos. And those would be on her prosperous days. Now, I can't teach everybody on the call how to figure out their prosperous, but I can offer to give them their consuming if they send me their date of birth, their first name, and their gender. That's all I need in the body of the email. And in the subject of the email, put JJ consuming. And that way I'll remember that I promised to send you that additional information. And I think JJ will put that in the show notes, but it would go to pk@pkfengshui.com.
Oh, PK, I don't do show notes.
Okay.
But so,
I'll spell it.
So yeah, and last time lots of people reached out to you, right? So
Yes.
spell it again. It's pretty easy. pk@pkfengshui.com, right?
Yes, Feng is spelled F-E-N-G, even though it isn't pronounced that way. And Shui is S-H-U-I.
All right, let's talk about the consuming, right? That's what you said you could do, or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
For instance, for myself, next year, all year, will be a consuming year for me. And in Feng Shui, we start not on January 1, that's the Western New Year. We start on February 4th. Why, I get asked? Because that's the halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It's called the spring establishment in the Farmer's Almanac. That's when the farmers go out and start preparing the land for the spring crops. It's the Chinese solar new year, not the lunar that gets all the parties. So starting February 4th, I will pay extra close attention to what I choose to spend my money on for the entire year. But I also have a consuming month, which I am in right now. It's from November 7th to December 6th, every single year that goes around. So I tell my clients when that time is so they can watch their spending. It's not a good time for me to go out and negotiate a new car, which I do need to decide on, but I'll wait till after December 6th to make that decision.
Okay. And so you can tell people individually, or is it something we can tell everybody based on their Chinese astrology about their consuming year?
It would be better if they emailed me their date of birth, because it might be a little bit of complicated, because it does have to do with you're born in the year of the rabbit. And I won't say what year, but you were born in a rabbit year. So everybody that was ever born in any rabbit year, their spending is the rooster year. And the last time we had a rooster year was, I'm looking back here. Oh, where to go to? There it is. The last time we had a rooster year was 2017. So last year you probably spent more money than you normally would, but you were probably wise, because I know you, and invested in your business in many ways.
Yeah, that last year was, you helped me with my book launch and told
Yeah.
me what day would be the best day for the book launch. And the book launch was very successful. And I did spend a lot of money on help, on programs, on creating things, on video production, on my event. You're right. So 2017 was definitely a year I did spend more money. And yes, it was mostly on my business.
Yeah.
So like 95% of it. So let's talk about the benefits so when you understand these things, do you make better choices? Do you save money? Do you make money because of your investments? Tell us how directly this knowledge about our consuming years and spending years help us know, like, what do we do differently?
Okay. Your consuming year does not prevent you from making money, because some people it's the very same year. It just means at the end of the year, your balance sheet for spending will be greater than an average year for you. And or the average month. So your spending month is September 8th to October 7th, JJ. So for all rabbits, that's their spending month. And they need to watch how they spend their money during that 1 month of the year, especially during your consuming year. When it doubles up, it is strongest. When it triples up, then you might want to just take a beach day on that day. So your next consuming day is going to be November the 25th. So that would be a good beach day for you.
Yeah. And actually, I have a need to buy things, actually. And I thought, oh, it'll be Black Friday this week.
Yes. But that's on the 23rd. So you're okay. So it would be Sunday should just be a beach day for you.
I love that. I'll
Mm-hmm.
take a beach day. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what happens with your consuming. Now, you will end up spending. So how are you going to spend it? Most people have heard of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Do you want to spend like Rich Dad so it brings you money? Or do you want to spend like Poor Dad so you're just enjoying life more and maybe have some new outfits or new big grown-up toys?
You know what's really interesting to think about? Oh, I definitely want to spend money to make money, but and to have grown-up toys. I want to do both, but I want to utilize the Chinese astrology, because those of you that listen to my show know I love astrology, but I've never done anything on Chinese astrology. And since working more with PK and understanding that she utilizes that in the work that she does with people to make personal recommendations for all kinds of things, wouldn't that be interesting? Like making a financial plan from the Chinese astrology Feng Shui perspective for the year. And being able to know and plan, it's like another level of financial planning, to know energetically, working with your Chinese astrology and energy of when to spend, when to save, when to take a beach day. I mean, geez, come on, who couldn't really take that to heart when someone says, hey, you shouldn't really be working today or spending any money, go take a beach day. So if anybody needs an excuse to go take a beach day, consider getting your financial plan looked at by PK and utilizing the Chinese astrology to look at all these things. So now in terms of money, let's continue on, because I want to, go ahead, PK.
Well, I was going to tell you that also you should avoid stopping off at the store. Like if you had a regular day job where you work till 5 p.m., you're spending 2 hours every day is from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Now, when we go into daylight savings, you got to bump that forward an hour from 6 to 8 p.m. But every single day, if you run into a store during that time or go online to shop, you spend more than you planned.
Okay, stay away from the computer. This is
Yeah.
a good thing. Doug
Mhm.
will be very happy
Yeah.
to make sure that I am not at the computer and we're eating dinner and not
Mhm.
working between the hours of 5 and 8. And
Oh,
just to
yeah, just to
cover,
be careful.
just to
Yeah.
be careful and just to
Mhm.
cover that. That would be
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Now, when you for sending out your announcements, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is the rat hour, and that is your prosperous timing and your prosperous direction. So the rat hour is from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., or when we're in daylight savings, it's midnight to 2. So if you tell your wonderful electronic system to send it out during that time, you don't even have to be awake then.
So I have a question about that because I do have an electronic system and I do usually set it to 4 a.m. Pacific time because I want to hit everybody who's up at that time, which includes people in Australia
Hmm.
as well as the people on the East Coast. So now if I'm hitting midnight or 11, everybody's sleeping and pretty much except the Australians and the Europeans. So what is it based on Pacific time?
It is based on the time wherever you are and not when they open it. So you could send out an email blast at that time and then say it's going live at 4 a.m. if that's when you want to have it go live. Or it should be already live by the time you open this email if you're in this part of the country or something like that. So it's when you send out the communications. So it could also be like the day you mail out something in the old days when we used to mail out things. Maybe some businesses still do that. But your days that are good for spending. Now, your consuming day, which is the 25th, comes around every 12 days. So what I tell my clients to do is put in their electronic calendar, my consuming day, and put it in on that first day that I tell them about and tell it to repeat daily, but every 12th day, like you have a repeating appointment at your doctor's or your massage therapist. Oh, that's even better. Um, your next prosperous day will be 3 days after that. So your prosperous day is always 3 days after you're consuming, just because of the rabbit year you were born in. Now, this is not something that's true for all rabbits, okay? Because the prosperous has to do with your stem, and that's a 10 cycle. There are 10 stems, so not all rabbits are going to have the same prosperous. But yours happens to be rat, and the 28th will be your next prosperous day. So if you're planning on bumping out some new things, then that would be a great day to do it. And but you're also right now, you're in the middle of your prosperous month every year. 7 December, oh, no, wait a minute, you're about to start it, not yet. 7 December to 5 January is your prosperous month. So anything you do in that time frame helps bring you more money, helps fill your events and other things like that. And that's every single month. I mean, that's that time period every single year.
Well, that would make sense for why releasing what weighs you down was very good last year, and I didn't do too much. And I questioned the time frame because most people say, "Oh, it's really hard to sell an event during the holidays when everybody is spending money on the holidays." But I said, "But this is about a January, releasing what weighs you down. It's the beginning of the year. It's a detox. It's the start of the year, and it wasn't hard to fill." And
Mm-hmm.
so that would be why. Thank you. That makes so much sense because it's against what everybody else said
Yeah.
but somehow intuitively I thought, well, I'm going to try it because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good time of the year.
Mm-hmm. So what you can do is in your electronic calendar, put in my prosperous day and start it on the 28th of November and make it just keep repeating every 12 days. So you'll always see when that prosperous day is. Now, here's the thing. You can double up, like in the month of December. You can use your month as your prosperous month and a prosperous day, but don't try for a trifecta and also send it out at your prosperous hour, because that trifecta of timing can backfire on you.
Okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's good to know. I'm going to try the sending it out at midnight thing soon. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm going to do that this week. So let's
Yeah.
talk about this is how we're using Chinese astrology to look at money. What about
Mm-hmm.
Chinese astrology and love?
Oh, from your Chinese astrology, there are two things specifically that affect your love. And one of them is called your romance based direction. It's your luck and romance direction. So, luck comes in its own timing. If you had a door or a window there, you might be in the right place at the right time for a certain opportunity. But if I tell you what color vase or vase, depending on the price tag on it, and what color fresh cut flowers to put in it with clean water in what direction, it brings you more romantic partners to choose from. But let's say you don't need more to choose from because you're already happily involved with somebody. Then I can tell you what headboard direction will bring out your romantic side more according to that same romance direction. Or you can use it for your mate if they're the ones that's not as romantic as you'd like. But there's the lonely pillow direction, which you don't want triggered. If that's triggered, using your romance direction all you want is not going to help anything blossom into a long-term relationship. You might have lots of first, second dates, but it doesn't blossom into a relationship. The lonely pillow can be triggered by the entire orientation of your home. It could be triggered by the position where the doors or windows are. You'd want to not open them if they were in your lonely direction. And that also includes the bedroom door. So this is one of the rare ones that includes the bedroom door. So if your bedroom door was in your lonely direction and you had another bedroom that was nice that you would want to sleep in instead of being in the room that's keeping you single, I think you might want to make that choice, especially if you've been single for quite a while. I had one client, well, actually, before I met her, she was laid up for 7 years with a back injury. Part of the problem was she was sleeping on an energy grid line. So before anybody follows any of my advice, we draw and these are invisible grids. So that's the interior width by the interior depth of each floor of your unit. So if you have a 3-story condo, it's going to be each floor is going to have its own width divided by 3 and depth divided by 3. You don't want your body on those dividing lines. Any of them that separate the 8 outer directions. The only lines you can cross safely without having a health problem are into the center. That's why I wish they didn't do these tiny homes where people are living all the time and a vacation won't hurt you that much. But to live all the time in a tiny home, you've got to have the bed crossing into the center section of that 9-section grid to avoid health problems. So this lady's was divided from side to side at the point on her back where this back injury would not heal. Plus, she was sleeping with her top of her head, her crown pointing to her lonely direction. So her health was bad, plus she wasn't dating. It was kind of hard to date in her health condition. But when her friends moved her bed off that energy grid line, she said, PK, it was the first morning I woke up without back pain and my healing started and I felt so much better. I put myself on the dating sites and I had 3 dates in the first week.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're single and you have never changed any of the things in your house or your home, I had a friend once who we were talking about different kinds of feng shui back then. And I remember she was very adamant about her belief about whatever the right bed direction was for her. And I said, why not just try it? The worst that can happen is you actually have a date. And if it doesn't work, you can change it back. So we're just talking about changing the position of things. So definitely if you're somebody who's single and you're heading into the holidays, and besides, of course, coming to releasing what weighs you down, thinking about Valentine's Day or relationships, definitely consider, looking at your space, looking at how your space is affecting your relationship, because it absolutely, a couple small changes could probably make all the difference. And I know that for people during the holidays that are not necessarily in a relationship or they're coming out of a relationship, the money piece, the relationship piece, those are big ones. And we've talked about health before, PK and I. And so I wanted to spend a little bit more time today on the money piece and the relationship piece. And you know what? As we get closer to Valentine's Day, maybe we'll come back and do another feng shui recording and show on very specific things about love. So let's back up then, because now that I just said that, we're going to do that. Let's continue talking about the money piece. So for someone who is heading into the new year and wanting to change things about, give us some more examples about feng shui and Chinese astrology and how they can affect someone's money, besides knowing like the calendar day of the year, which is spending and all that. Like, let's talk about the actual positioning of their stuff in their home.
Okay. Well, for one thing, they can find the location that is their prosperous. For you, the middle 15 degrees of north is your prosperous. So if you were to be able to find out from the center of your unit where that direction was, and you can do it with your compass app on a phone. So you just, if you have an iPhone, it comes with it. You have to go in the settings though and shut off true north so that it will tell you magnetic north. And the top of the phone where you used to plug in a headset is the direction it's going to read. And you still have to hold it level, even though it doesn't have a bubble in there. You still have to get it level. And the iPhones are wonderful. They have a little gray X that comes off to the side if it's not level. And when you get it level, the gray X goes behind the big X in the middle. And you just point the top of that phone to the direction where you think north might be. And when you find where that 0 degrees north is, your personal, from your date of birth, direction is that 15 degrees of magnetic north. So it's going to be 7 degrees on either side of that 0. And then you're going to say, oh, that window, when it's safe and weather permitting, because I don't want anybody having any other problems, but when it's safe and weather permitting, have that door or window open because it helps bring more money to you. Now, the other is the middle of west. So that's 270, I believe, is the middle of west. So 7 degrees on either side of that is your consuming. So if you find a door or a window there, you want to keep it closed as much as possible so you don't have to monitor your spending as much.
So no, we're talking about the outside, like the positions of the door, the windows, and having it
Mm-hmm.
open or having it closed. But what about,
Mm-hmm.
I know there are other feng shui styles, and we covered this in your first show, but I
Mm-hmm.
know there are some that deal with like the inside, like you mentioned, the color of the roses and where to put the vase or vase, depending on the price tag. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the importance about the inside space, the colors, the positioning of the things? How much does that have to do with feng shui and the energies that like the energy it produces to either manifest money or love?
Well, every building is one of 4 house types. Some are better for making money, and some have money challenges. And some have health and relationship challenges. Some are great for health and relationship. So, my job is to identify which one of the 4 house types it is and tell the clients how to optimize it, how to lessen the negative part and optimize the good. And sometimes buildings, well, not sometimes, all buildings go through phases which are called the lock, L-O-C-K. And when it goes into a lock, if it's a people lock, it's about health and relationship problems. That's when it's difficult to get a relationship started or have a baby. If it's a money lock, that's when it's difficult to get the money in. It's like all that money's waiting out there trying to get into you. There was a TV show where there was this whole community that ended up under this invisible bubble. And it's kind of like that. You're inside of this invisible bubble and the money's bouncing off trying to get to you and it can't. And when we release that lock by strategically putting water somewhere outside or inside the building, then you don't have to worry about the money lock anymore. But if you put the water in the wrong direction, you actually created the opposite problem, which it decreases the money. And if you didn't need the water, why go to the expense? So that's why it's important to find out whether you're in a house that needs remedies outside to make it better for making money, or whether it's going through a locked phase. And those all start on February 4th. The locks are annual, and there can be 20-year locks. So if you've been having trouble since 2004 and you haven't had the feng shui checked out, there could be a lot of things I could do to help you. But if it's this coming February 4th and all of a sudden in later February or in March or April, you're like, what's going on? That would be a good time to call me, or call me before so you can avoid the lock. My clients find out in December and January what they need to change in early February on February 4th so they can avoid going through a lock from year to year, and they can keep the benefits rolling in from optimizing their feng shui. Now, there's also the annual influences of the energies, which is why you want to have an update every year to find out, oh, is the annual energy that's going to cause delays and procrastination going to visit my door or my office or my bedroom this year? Then I need to know how I can neutralize that and not have to go through delays and procrastination. Procrastination leads to clutter. Delays could be delays in people hiring you completing projects, or you getting the money for the projects you've completed. Now, that same energy brings accidents and pain and illness. So you really don't want to have pain and illness plus the money is having delays getting to you. And next year, the direction that's going to visit is the southwest 45 degrees of every single house. Now, that depends on if that's an area you spend much time in, if it's got a door to the outside in it, or if your office area is in there, or your bedroom. If it's one of those important areas, you want to have no fire colors in that area. That's any shades of reds or purples or vibrant oranges, if they call it a fiery orange, because the fire colors actually trigger those problems of pain and illness and delays and procrastination. So the southwest is the worst area for anybody to have fire colors in from February 4th of 2019 to February 4th of 2020.
PK, tell the story about that client that you had, or that person at the networking meeting who said she moved into her place, for like a year and then
Yeah, there was a lady that I had met networking, and it was about 3 years after I met her that she finally hired me to come feng shui the duplex she was in. And I was like, terrific, I can help her now, because she was a great chiropractor, but always struggling. And when I got to her duplex, she goes, oh, by the way, I moved in here temporarily 38 years ago. And I could tell from the energy combinations overall for the building and at the entrance and the bedroom and the area she was using for her home office, why she had been there temporarily for 38 years and she never planned on staying there. So we fixed it so she could do better in her work and make more money and move on to another location.
So if you're one of those people and you tried everything and you can't figure out what the problem is, it might actually be in your home or it might be in where you're sitting and the colors that you have and the position of the energies that affect your life every day. So definitely reach out to PK. And you had offered a few free things. Tell us what those were again.
Okay. So if anyone listening wants this information from me, you put JJ Consuming in the subject line. In the body of the email, just put your first name, your gender, because if it's Chris, I don't know if you're a boy or a girl, and put your date of birth. I do need the whole date of birth because I need to know if you were born before February 4th, and I need to know the year you were born so I can accurately give you this information. I will tell you when your consuming timing is, the month, the year, the month, the day, the hour, and they just keep coming around every 12. And like in 2020, JJ is going to have a really good year because that's your next prosperous full year, JJ. So you'll find that information out. Plus, I will tell you what your trigram direction is. This is your best, most restful sleeping direction. And then you have 3 others that are also good. That's the direction to have your crown, the top of your head pointing when you're sleeping. So you're connecting. And I think a lot of people on JJ's calls understand chakras. So it's basically which way your crown chakra is pointing when you lay down to sleep. And also what colors for your wardrobe are going to feed your element, because each trigram relates to an element, and what direction you need to keep clean and uncluttered to avoid financial setbacks, health, and relationship problems. And everybody has their own 45-degree direction for that, both inside and outside. But in this timing, until February 4th, 2024, when we change to the next 20-year cycle of Feng Shui, everybody should keep the northeast 45-degree directions and the northwest 45-degree directions clean and neat and uncluttered. And I'll remind you of that also in the email I send you when you send me the request with JJ Consuming in the subject line. Oh, email address to send it to, PK, like pretty kitten, at pkfengshui.com. That's PKFENGSHUI.com.
PK made the joke about Pretty Kitten because she knows I'm fostering 5 kittens right now. And in case you've heard any of them in the background, that was the joke. So yes, PK at pkfengshui.com, a ton of information about what you can already start doing for all of us in your space to make the most of what's going to happen potentially in your financial world when it comes to your Chinese astrology, Feng Shui, and the next year on the calendar, 2019, and the Chinese New Year. And of course, if you want more detailed information, please make sure to email PK so you can get free things that she just offered to you, one of them. And then, of course, hire PK to work with you. Don't end up being that woman who tried to, didn't think she was going to leave and then stayed there for 30 years. If you are stuck in some area of your life and you haven't looked at Feng Shui yet as an option for you to actually make change, I can tell you from personal experience, it works every time. So please consider using some Feng Shui in order for you to change your next year, 2019.
JJ, I just want to make sure all your listeners know that they don't have to live in Southern California for me to help them. I do work remotely worldwide. We meet on online meeting and I go over everything with them. They send me photos and videos of their space. They just need to be able to send me the exact floor plan, which I can give them directions on how to do that. And they give me everyone's date of birth, the year the building was built. And then I find the compass orientation by using satellite imaging and doing the calculations to find out the difference between true north and magnetic north. And it is, whether you own or rent, the energies in your building are affecting your money, your health, and your relationships.
Absolutely. And I did think I said earlier in the show that whether you live locally or you could work with them either on Zoom or remotely, right? So yes, absolutely. She doesn't have to be near you for her to help you. So please reach out. Know that the energies of Feng Shui are real and that please go back and listen to our first show that we did, which was about the harmful effects, 7 different harmful effects in your bedroom that affect your health. And again, that was Feng Shui related, full of amazing tips and things that you can use right now to change your own health and to make sure, just like you talked about, I know that client with her back pain and being on the grid line. And so I hope today has stimulated some ideas for all of you that are listening. PK at pkfengshui.com. If you're coming to the January event, you can meet her in person. If you're buying a virtual ticket, you will learn more from her because she'll be on the camera as well. And PK, we're going to do another show about Valentine's Day. I think we need to do a whole show about love. How do you feel about that?
Okay.
Well, then she'll be back. All right, PK, thank you so much for helping everybody hopefully move into 2019 a little more prosperous.
Thank you, JJ.